The massive space station orbited the bright star of Kepler Prime like a silver jewel against the darkness. Inside its crystal chambers, 12 different alien species had gathered for what would become the most important meeting in galactic history. The air hummed with tension as creatures of various shapes and sizes took their places around the enormous circular table. Ambassador Kethver of the Zephyrians stood at the head of the assembly. His tall, graceful form moved with fluid motions. As his melodic voice filled the chamber through the universal translators, the Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy for their diplomatic skills and peaceful nature. Today, however, peace was not on their agenda. Captain Jake Morrison sat alone in the defendant's chair at the center of the room. His weathered face showed no emotion as he watched the alien delegates whisper among themselves. At 55 years old, Jake had spent most of his adult life exploring the galaxy and building relationships with these same species. Now they looked at him like he was a dangerous criminal. Dr. Lisa Carter stood nearby, her scientific mind racing as she prepared to defend her entire species. As Earth's chief xenobiologist, she had dedicated her life to understanding alien cultures and fostering peaceful relations. The irony was not lost on her that she now had to convince these aliens that humans deserved to exist among them. The Krexni delegation sat in their heavy armor, their massive forms dominating one entire section of the chamber. General Thokran, their military leader, had been vocal about his distrust of humans from the beginning. His scarred face bore the marks of countless battles, and his yellow eyes glowed with barely contained anger as he stared at the human representatives. The Veltari occupied the opposite side of the chamber, their insect-like forms clicking and chittering in their own language. They were master engineers and had helped humanity build some of their most advanced colonies. Their betrayal stung the most, Jake thought, as he remembered working alongside them on New Terra just 2 years ago. Ambassador Kethver called the session to order with 3 melodic tones that resonated throughout the chamber. "We gather today to address the human question," he began, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "For 50 Earth years, humanity has been part of our galactic community. In that time, they have shown behaviors that many of us find concerning." Dr. Carter stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "Ambassador, with respect, humanity has followed all established protocols for new species integration. We have shared our technology, opened our worlds to trade, and contributed to galactic security through our exploration efforts." General Thokran slammed his armored fist on the table, the sound echoing through the chamber like thunder. "Protocols mean nothing when your species shows such aggressive expansion. In 50 years, you have established colonies on 37 worlds. Most species take centuries to expand beyond their home systems. We expand because we can," Captain Morrison said, speaking for the first time since the session began. "Humanity adapts quickly to new environments. We see that as a strength, not a weakness." The ethereal representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "Adaptation is indeed valuable, but your rate of change concerns us. You modify alien technology in ways we never intended. You settle worlds we consider uninhabitable. You form alliances and trade agreements that bypass traditional galactic procedures." Dr. Carter pulled up a holographic display showing human colony worlds. "Every world we have settled was deemed worthless by galactic standards. We took nothing that anyone else wanted. Our colonies exist on planets with extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, or dangerous wildlife. We turned wastelands into productive worlds." "That is precisely the problem," said the Veltari speaker, her translated voice carrying notes of fear. "Your ability to survive and thrive in impossible conditions makes you unpredictable. How can we plan galactic policy when one species can change the rules so quickly?" Ambassador Kethver nodded gravely. "The Council has identified 17 specific violations of galactic law committed by human colonies or vessels in the past decade. These range from unauthorized technological modifications to aggressive territorial expansion." Captain Morrison stood slowly, his military bearing evident in every movement. Every action we took was in response to threats or opportunities that required immediate attention. We saved Zephyrian colonies from solar flares by modifying their shield technology. We drove off pirate fleets that were attacking Veltari trade routes. We established early warning stations in dangerous sectors that protect everyone's shipping. Without permission, General Thokrin growled, without consultation, without regard for proper channels or established authority. You act first and ask forgiveness later, if you ask at all. Dr. Carter's frustration was evident in her voice. We act quickly because threats don't wait for committee meetings. When the Dark Star Nebula began expanding toward the Centauri trade, we didn't have time to file reports and wait for approval. We developed containment technology and deployed it immediately. That nebula would have destroyed 3 colony worlds if we had waited for galactic bureaucracy. The chamber fell silent as the weight of her words settled over the assembly. The Centauri incident had indeed saved millions of lives, but it had also demonstrated humanity's willingness to act unilaterally when they deemed it necessary. Ambassador Kethver consulted his datapad before speaking again. The Council acknowledges that human actions have sometimes produced beneficial results. However, the unpredictable nature of your species poses a long-term threat to galactic stability. Your technological advancement rate exceeds safe parameters. Your willingness to settle hostile worlds creates territorial complications. Your tendency to modify existing technology without regard for safety protocols endangers established systems. What are you proposing? Captain Morrison asked, though he already suspected the answer. The ethereal representative answered with a voice like distant music. Quarantine. Humanity will withdraw to their home system immediately. Exclusion zone of 10 light years will be established around your star. Any human vessel found outside this zone after the deadline will be destroyed. Without warning. Dr. Carter felt her heart sink as she looked around the chamber. You're condemning an entire species based on fear of what we might do, not what we have done. This is exile, not justice. General Thokrin's voice carried satisfaction as he spoke. It is survival. Your species has proven too dangerous to coexist with civilized galactic society. Perhaps isolation will teach you proper respect for order and authority. The vote was called immediately. One by one, each species cast their decision. The Zephyrians voted for quarantine. The Krexni voted for quarantine. The Veltari voted for quarantine. Down the line it went, each vote sealing humanity's fate. Only the Ethereals abstained, their representative offering no explanation for their neutrality. Ambassador Kethver stood to deliver the final judgment. By unanimous vote of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby expelled from galactic society. You have 72 galactic standard hours to evacuate all colonies and return to your home system. This decision is final and non-negotiable. Captain. Morrison and Dr. Carter gathered their few belongings and walked toward the chamber exit. As they reached the doorway, Jake turned back to address the assembly one final time. His voice was calm, but there was something in his eyes that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. You think you're protecting yourselves? He said quietly. You think sending us away makes you safer? You have no idea what you've just done to yourselves. The chamber doors closed behind them with a soft hiss, leaving the galactic representatives to congratulate themselves on removing a dangerous threat. None of them noticed the small device that Dr. Carter had quietly attached to the underside of the council table. None of them suspected that their private discussions would soon be monitored by very interested human ears. As their shuttle departed the station, Captain Morrison looked back at the massive structure that had just changed. The course of galactic history. 72 hours, he said to Dr. Carter. Think that's enough time to activate the contingency plans? Dr. Carter smiled grimly as she activated her secure communicator. More than enough. By the time we're finished, they'll understand exactly why they needed us here. The evacuation order spread across human space like wildfire. Within hours of Captain Morrison's return to Earth, emergency signals reached every human colony, outpost, and research station scattered across 37 star systems. The message was simple and devastating. Pack everything, leave nothing behind, and get home before the deadline. Admiral Kevin Hayes stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Liberty, watching the tactical display that showed the largest humanitarian operation in galactic history. Thousands of ships moved like busy ants across the star map, each one carrying families, equipment, and the dreams of 2 generations who had built new lives among the stars. Kevin had commanded fleets in 3 different conflicts, but nothing had prepared him for orchestrating the retreat of an entire civilization. The communication channels buzzed with constant chatter from colony governors, ship captains, and transport coordinators. Everyone wanted to know how this was possible, how 50 years of peaceful expansion could end with such sudden exile. Kevin had no answers that would comfort them. The only thing that mattered now was getting everyone home alive on New Terra, the largest human agricultural colony. Colonel Susan Wright supervised the dismantling of massive dome cities that had fed millions of people across multiple star systems. The colonists worked with military precision despite their anger and heartbreak. Children who had never seen Earth helped pack equipment they did not understand, while their parents tried to explain why they were abandoning the only home these kids had ever known. Susan watched as the great greenhouse domes were carefully disassembled and loaded onto cargo ships. These structures represented decades of engineering work and billions of credits in investment. The alien soil beneath them had been transformed from barren rock into fertile farmland through human ingenuity and backbreaking labor. Now it would all return to dust. "Colonel, we have a problem," reported Lieutenant Danny Cooper as he approached with a worried expression. "The atmospheric processors are too integrated with the planetary systems to remove safely. If we tried to extract them, we could destabilize the entire climate we created here." Susan nodded grimly. She had expected this. Human terraforming technology was designed to work permanently with planetary ecosystems. Removing it would leave New Terra as a dead world within a few years. "Leave them running," she ordered. "Maybe whoever claims this planet next will be smart enough to maintain what we built." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Mining colonies extracted their people and portable equipment while leaving behind the infrastructure that had made these operations profitable. Research stations packed their data and specimens while abandoning laboratories that had taken years to construct. Trading posts closed their doors forever, leaving empty buildings that had once been bustling centers of commerce. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres led a salvage team at the mining station orbiting Proxima Centauri. His job was more complex than simple evacuation. The humans were taking more than just their people and equipment. They were taking knowledge. Every piece of alien technology that humans had legally acquired, every technical manual they had purchased, every cultural exchange program they had participated in was being carefully cataloged and stored. "Sir, the Veltari are demanding we return their technical specifications," reported Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos as she sealed another data container. "They say the licensing agreements become void when we leave galactic society." Ryan smiled coldly as he continued packing sensitive materials. "Tell them to file a complaint with the Galactic Trade Commission. We paid for that information fair and square. If they want it back, they can come to Earth and ask Nellisly." The salvage operation was revealing just how much humans had learned during their 5 decades in galactic society. Weapons technology, starship designs, communication systems, medical techniques, and scientific principles that had taken other species centuries to develop were now part of human knowledge. The aliens had shared freely, never imagining that their students might one day become their enemies. Dr. Patricia Morgan, head of Xenological Studies, made a disturbing discovery while reviewing evacuation reports from her temporary headquarters. Aboard the research vessel Discovery, 3 remote research stations had gone completely silent during the evacuation. When emergency teams finally reached these locations, they found the facilities empty but undamaged. The scientific staff had vanished completely, along with all their research materials and several prototype devices. "Admiral, I think we have defectors," Patricia reported during the daily command briefing. The missing teams were all working on classified projects involving alien technology. Their disappearance seems too convenient to be accidental. Admiral Hayes studied the report with growing concern. Could they have been captured by alien forces trying to prevent us from taking sensitive information? No, sir, Patricia replied. The facilities show no signs of struggle or forced entry. These people left voluntarily and they took everything. With them, I think they're going underground. The implications were troubling. If human scientists had decided to remain in galactic space illegally, they could cause serious problems for both species. Their knowledge of alien technology combined with human ingenuity could create weapons or tools that might destabilize the entire region. As the deadline approached, the stream of refugees returning to Earth became a flood. Ships arrived constantly, their holds packed with families and equipment. The orbital stations around Earth worked frantically to process the incoming vessels and find temporary housing for millions of displaced colonists. The logistics were staggering, but humanity had always excelled under pressure. Captain Helen Rodriguez commanded the transport ship New Horizon as it made its final run from the Centauri system. Her cargo hold was filled with the last evacuees from 3 different colonies, including several hundred children who had never seen their species' homeworld. The kids pressed against the viewports as Earth grew larger ahead of them, their excitement mixed with confusion about why they had to leave their real homes. Captain, we're receiving priority communications from Admiral Hayes, reported the communications officer. He wants to speak with Dr. Elizabeth Kim immediately. Helen found the elderly scientist in the ship's small laboratory, where she was, carefully tending to specimens that represented years of biological research. Dr. Kim had been studying alien plant life on Kepler-7, work that could have led to revolutionary advances in human agriculture. Doctor, Admiral Hayes needs to speak with you urgently, Helen said. Elizabeth looked up from her work with tired eyes. Let me guess, he wants to know about the missing research teams. Helen was surprised. You know about that? I know because 3 of them contacted me before we left, Elizabeth replied quietly. They're not defectors, Captain. They're staying behind to continue work that's too important to abandon. Work that might one day save both human and alien lives. The final human ships crossed the quarantine perimeter with less than 6 hours to spare. As the last transport cleared the 10-light-year boundary, automated beacons throughout human space began transmitting coded signals to destinations unknown. The signals were brief and encrypted, but their message was clear to those who knew how to listen. Admiral Hayes watched the tactical display as the quarantine zone became active. Alien patrol ships took up positions along the perimeter, their weapons trained on empty space where human vessels might appear. The galaxy felt safer now, protected from the unpredictable humans who had disturbed their careful order, but deep in the asteroid fields and hidden bases scattered throughout known space, other signals were being received. Human operatives who had been placed years ago in critical positions were activating their sleeper protocols. Scientists who had supposedly evacuated were settling into secret laboratories. Traders who had been banned from galactic markets were establishing new networks that operated completely outside official channels. The aliens thought they had expelled humanity from their society. What they had actually done was force a highly adaptable species to operate in the shadows, free from treaties and regulations that had previously limited their actions. The humans were no longer guests in galactic society. Now they were something far more dangerous. They were ghosts in the machine, invisible hands that could reach anywhere and touch anything. And they had 72 hours worth of anger to work through. 6 months had passed since the last human ship crossed the quarantine boundary, and the galaxy seemed to breathe easier. Trade routes that had been disrupted by aggressive human expansion now flowed smoothly between established worlds. The unpredictable behavior that had marked human presence was gone, replaced by the orderly commerce that galactic civilization had enjoyed for thousands of years. Ambassador Kethver reviewed the quarterly stability reports from his office on the central station. Every metric showed improvement. Territorial disputes had decreased by 60%. Unauthorized technology modifications had stopped completely. The aggressive colonization that had worried so many species was no longer a concern. The Council had made the right decision, he told himself, even if it had been difficult on the mining world of Kepler-9. However, things were not going as smoothly as the report suggested. Chief Engineer Voktile of the Veltari Mining Consortium stood in the control room of their primary extraction facility, staring at diagnostic screens that made no sense. The automated systems that had worked perfectly for 3 years were failing, one by one, and his best technicians could not determine why. The resonance modulators are operating outside normal parameters, reported his assistant, clicking nervously in the Veltari manner. The frequency alignment is shifting randomly, causing cascade failures throughout the entire network. Vokto examined the technical specifications for the 100th time. The equipment had been designed by human engineers working under contract for the mining consortium. It was elegant, efficient, and remarkably sophisticated. It was also completely beyond the understanding of any Veltari technician. The humans had provided operating manuals but no detailed schematics, claiming that proprietary technology restrictions prevented them from sharing design details. "Can we contact the human designers for technical support?" asked his assistant. "The humans are gone," Voktile replied bitterly. "They are forbidden from entering our space, and we cannot enter theirs. We are on our own with technology we do not understand." Similar problems were appearing throughout the galaxy. The Outer Rim territories, where human trading posts had once provided technical support and spare parts, were experiencing equipment failures at an alarming rate. Automated systems that had functioned flawlessly for years suddenly developed mysterious glitches that no one could repair. Commander Rachel Price sat in the captain's chair of the merchant vessel Stardancer, hidden in an asteroid field just outside the quarantine zone. Her ship was officially listed as destroyed in a pirate attack 6 months ago, but it was very much alive and very busy. Rachel commanded a network of smugglers, information brokers, and black market dealers that the galaxy never knew existed. "We have another request from the Zephyrian Trade Guild," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Carl White. "They need replacement components for their orbital processing stations. The human-designed systems are failing and they cannot manufacture compatible parts." Rachel smiled as she reviewed the price list for black market human technology. "Tell them we can provide what they need, but it will cost them triple the standard rate." Supply and demand, after all. The black market in human goods was booming. Medicines that worked better than anything in galactic pharmacies commanded enormous prices. Weapons that never missed their targets were worth more than entire starships. Most valuable of all was information, because the humans had been very good at learning secrets during their 5 decades in galactic society. Dr. Benjamin Taylor worked in a hidden laboratory deep within an abandoned asteroid mine, far from any trade route or patrol. His team of 12 scientists had officially died in a transport accident during the evacuation, but they were very much alive and very busy. They had spent months studying captured alien technology, making discoveries that would have revolutionized galactic civilization if anyone had been allowed to share them. The Krexny military encryption is based on quantum fluctuation patterns, Benjamin explained to his team during their daily briefing. But they made a fundamental error in their mathematics. The encryption can be broken with a simple frequency modulation if you know the right formula. His colleague, Dr. Anna Foster, looked up from her workstation where she was examining Zephyrian communication equipment. "The diplomatic channels use a similar vulnerability. We could monitor every official transmission in the galaxy if we wanted." "Tio," Benjamin nodded grimly, "we could do more than monitor. We could insert false messages, corrupt data transfers, or shut down entire networks. The question is whether we should." The answer came sooner than expected. The first major test of human capabilities occurred at the Veltari homeworld, where their planetary defense grid suffered a mysterious cascading failure. For 12 terrifying hours, one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations was completely defenseless. Their shields, weapons, and communication systems simply stopped working. displaying error messages in perfect Valtari script that read, "You reap what you sow." The failure was traced to a single line of corrupted code that had been inserted into the system years earlier. The code had remained dormant until activated by a remote signal that came from somewhere outside the galaxy. Valtari engineers worked frantically to repair the damage, but every fix they attempted only triggered new failures. The defense grid only returned to normal operation when the mysterious signal stopped. Transmitting, General Thokren received the report about the Valtari incident while reviewing his own military preparedness. The Krexni had always prided themselves on their technological superiority and military strength. Their fleet was the most powerful in known space, equipped with weapons and shields that could challenge any enemy. The idea that humans might pose a threat to such strength seemed ridiculous. That confidence evaporated when 30% of his fleet suddenly went dark during routine patrol operations. The ships were undamaged, and their crews were unharmed, but every navigation system, weapon targeting computer, and communication array simply refused to function. The vessels drifted helplessly in space while their crews tried desperately to understand what had happened. "Sir, the humans are somehow accessing our systems," reported his chief technician, fear evident in his translated voice. "They are not destroying anything, just preventing it from working. It is like they have keys to every lock in our military." The pattern repeated across the galaxy as one system after another experienced mysterious failures. The Zephyrian communication network crashed, leaving their world-spanning civilization unable to coordinate basic services. Trade guild computers began transferring treasury holdings to accounts that did not exist, while displaying cheerful messages thanking the account holders for their business. Ambassador Kethver called an emergency session of the Galactic Council as reports flooded in from every member world. The elegant chamber where they had voted to expel humanity now buzzed with panic as delegates tried to understand how their most secure systems were being compromised by a species that was supposedly contained in quarantine. "The humans are attacking us," declared General Thokren, his voice thick with anger and embarrassment. "They are using some form of quantum warfare that our defenses cannot detect or prevent." The ethereal representative spoke in their musical voice, but there was a note of concern that had not been present during the original vote. "Our analysis suggests that these are not attacks in the traditional sense. The systems are not being destroyed, merely controlled. It appears that humans installed hidden access protocols during their time in galactic society." Dr. Miranda Stone appeared on the main display screen, her image transmitted from Earth through channels that should have been impossible to access. Her voice was calm and professional as she addressed the panicked assembly. "Honorable delegates," she began, "what you are experiencing is not an attack. It is a demonstration. For 50 years, human engineers, technicians, and programmers worked alongside your people to build and maintain the systems that keep your civilization running. We learned how everything works, and we built ourselves some insurance policies." "Ambassador," Kethver found his voice first, "what do you want from us?" Miranda smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "We want you to understand that expelling us was a mistake. You thought you were making yourselves safer by removing a dangerous element from galactic society. What you actually did was remove the people who were keeping you safe." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. The implications were staggering. If humans could access any system at will, then every military secret, every financial transaction, and every private communication was potentially compromised. The species they had exiled for being unpredictable had just demonstrated that they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. General Thokren slammed his fist on the table, but the gesture felt hollow now. "We cannot allow this to continue. We must find a way to purge human influence from our systems." The ethereal representative's response was barely audible. "I fear it may already be too late for that. The humans have had 50 years to prepare for this day. They knew we would eventually turn against them, and they planned accordingly." Outside the quarantine zone, Rachel Price received a coded transmission on a frequency T. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for the third time in 2 weeks as crisis reports flooded in from every corner of known space. The elegant chamber that had once echoed with confident votes to expel humanity now buzzed with desperate voices as delegate after delegate reported catastrophic system failures across their territories. Ambassador Kethver looked older than his years as he tried to maintain order among the panicking representatives. His melodic voice had lost its usual calm authority, replaced by barely controlled fear as he read the latest damage reports. The Zephyrian diplomatic network had been down for 6 days. Their entire planetary government was operating on backup communication systems that dated back centuries. General Thokran stood before the assembly, his once proud military bearing broken by repeated humiliation. The scarred Krexni warrior who had demanded human exile now struggled to explain how 40% of his fleet remained inoperable despite the best efforts of his engineers. His voice cracked with emotion as he delivered his report. "The navigation systems display star charts that do not match our records," he said, his yellow eyes dim with exhaustion. "When our pilots try to plot courses, the computers redirect them to coordinates in empty space. The weapon targeting systems lock onto our own ships instead of enemy targets. The communication arrays broadcast children's songs instead of military orders. The absurdity of it would have been laughable if it had not been so terrifying. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been reduced to a collection of expensive metal sculptures drifting helplessly through space. Every attempt to repair the damage only triggered new and more creative malfunctions. Dr. Helen Martinez of the Veltari Technical Institute delivered her report with the clinical precision of a scientist describing a terminal disease. "We have identified human-designed components in 93% of our critical infrastructure systems. These components appear to have hidden functions that were never documented in the original specifications. They can be activated remotely to cause selective failures that cascade throughout entire networks." The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. For 50 years, humanity had been the galaxy's go-to species for technical problems that other civilizations could not solve. Human engineers had worked on everything from planetary defense grids to interstellar communication networks. They had been helpful, efficient, and seemingly honest in all their dealings. Now it was clear that every helpful modification, every elegant solution, and every improved design had contained hidden backdoors that could be exploited at will. The humans had not just learned about galactic technology during their exile. They had built secret control mechanisms into the very foundations of galactic civilization. The ethereal representatives spoke in their musical voice, but the usual harmony was replaced by discordant notes that reflected their species' growing alarm. "Our quantum analysis indicates that these hidden functions have been present for decades. The humans did not add them recently as a response to exile. They installed them gradually over the entire duration of their membership in galactic society." Ambassador Kethver felt a chill run through his elegant form as the implications became clear. "Are you saying that humanity planned for this from the beginning? That their entire integration into our society was preparation for eventual conflict?" "The evidence suggests a more complex reality," the ethereal replied. "The hidden functions appear to have dual purposes. They can cause the failures we are experiencing, but they also serve as monitoring and early warning systems. It is possible that humans were not planning to attack us, but rather to protect us from threats we were not aware of." President Elena Rodriguez appeared on the main communication screen. Her image transmitted from Earth through systems that the galaxy now knew were completely compromised. Her presence in the council chamber, even virtually, represented a violation of the quarantine that no one had the power to prevent. The woman who had once pleaded for peaceful coexistence now spoke with the authority of someone who held all the cards. "Honorable delegates," she began, her voice carrying across the chamber with perfect clarity, "I want you to understand something important. Every system failure you have experienced in the past 2 weeks has been a demonstration, not an attack. We have not harmed a single civilian or destroyed any infrastructure. We have simply shown you how vulnerable you have become." General Thokran struggled to his feet, his armor clanking as he pointed an accusatory finger at the screen. "You have crippled our defenses and paralyzed our fleets. How is that not an attack?" Elena's expression remained calm as she answered, "Because your defenses and fleets are intact, General. Your ships have power, life support, and structural integrity. Your weapons can fire and your shields can activate. We have simply prevented you from using these systems effectively. If we had wanted to attack you, your ships would be debris and your crews would be dead." The casual way she delivered this threat made it even more chilling. The humans were not boasting about their power. They were simply stating facts about capabilities that the galaxy had never suspected existed. "You expelled us for being dangerous," Elena continued. "You are absolutely right, we are dangerous. But we were dangerous to your enemies, not to you. For 50 years, human scientists, engineers, and explorers have been serving as your early warning system against threats that you were not even aware of." Ambassador Kethver found his voice with difficulty. "What threats?" "Our space is secure. We have maintained peace for centuries." Elena smiled, but there was no humor in the expression. "Your space is secure because we made it secure. Human exploration vessels did not expand into empty systems by accident. We were mapping the movements of hostile forces that have been preparing to invade for decades. Our colonies were not established for profit or territory. They were forward observation posts monitoring enemy activity." The main screen changed to display a tactical map that showed the galaxy from a perspective none of them had ever seen. Red markers indicated hostile fleets lurking in the dark spaces between stars. Enemy bases were highlighted in systems that galactic surveys had marked as empty. The scope of the hidden threat was staggering. "The Devourers have been rebuilding their forces for the past century," Elena explained as the map zoomed in on specific threat locations. "They learned from their last defeat and have been developing new technologies based on captured galactic equipment. Their invasion fleet has been massing just beyond the edge of known space, waiting for the right moment to strike." "Dr. Helen." Martinez stared at the display with growing horror. "How do you know all this? Our long-range sensors have detected nothing." "Because your sensors are looking for things they recognize," Elena replied. "The Devourers are using stealth technology that makes their ships invisible to conventional detection methods. Human sensor technology is based on different principles that can penetrate their concealment." General Filkern's voice was barely a whisper as he asked the question that everyone was thinking. "When will they attack?" Elena checked a datapad before answering. "Originally, they were scheduled to begin their invasion 3 months from now. Our hidden observation posts have been tracking their final preparations. However, recent events have forced them to accelerate their timeline." The chamber fell silent as the horrible truth became clear. The Galactic Council's decision to expel humanity had not only removed their protection but had also triggered the very attack they were supposed to prevent. "They know we have been watching them," Elena continued. "Our sudden withdrawal from the observation posts has convinced them that the galaxy is no longer prepared for their assault. They have moved up their invasion date. The first wave of Devourer ships will arrive at the outer colonies in 72 hours. Ambassador Kethver struggled to process the magnitude of their mistake. "Can you stop them? Will you help us?" Elena's image flickered as the transmission prepared to end. "That depends, Ambassador. Are you prepared to discuss the terms of humanity's return to galactic society? Because right now, you need us a lot more than we need you." The screen went dark, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside the quarantine zone, long-range sensors began detecting massive energy signatures moving toward galactic space. The Devourers were coming, and the galaxy had never been less prepared to face them. The Devourer fleet appeared at the edge of galactic space like a dark tide washing across the stars. Their ships blotted out entire constellations as they moved in perfect formation toward the outer colonies. The invasion force was larger than anything in recorded history, containing millions of vessels that ranged from small fighters to massive world killers that dwarfed the largest. galactic battleships on the frontier world of New Kepler. Governor Alex Thompson watched through his office window as the sky began to change color. The Devourer ships were still days away, but their presence was already affecting local space. Aurora-like phenomena danced across the atmosphere as exotic radiation from their engines interacted with the planetary magnetic field. "Sir, we're receiving evacuation orders from the Galactic Defense Force," reported his aide, Lieutenant Sarah Walsh. "All civilian populations are to be relocated to the core worlds immediately." Alex turned away from the window with a bitter laugh. "And, how exactly are we supposed to evacuate 12 million people with a transport fleet that was designed to handle normal trade traffic?" The Galactic Defense Force couldn't organize a birthday party, much less a planetary evacuation. The truth was that galactic civilization had grown soft during centuries of peace. Their military forces were designed for small conflicts and police actions, not for the total war that was now approaching. The Devourer fleet outnumbered the entire Galactic Defense Force by a ratio of 50 to 1, and their technology had advanced far beyond anything the galaxy possessed. Ambassador Kethver led a desperate delegation of council members toward the Sol system, their ships pushing through space at maximum speed. The elegant Zephyrian diplomat who had once voted to expel humanity now found himself in the humiliating position of begging for their help. His pride meant nothing compared to the survival of his species. "Are you certain the humans will even speak with us?" asked the Veltari representative as their small fleet approached the quarantine boundary. "We condemn them as dangerous criminals and force them into exile. They would be justified in letting us face the Devourers alone." The ethereal delegate spoke in harmonious tones that carried notes of both hope and despair. "Humanity has always been unpredictable. That unpredictability may be our salvation, or it may be our doom. We will know soon enough." The Sol system had been transformed during the months of human exile. Every asteroid had been converted into a fortress bristling with weapons that defied galactic understanding. Every planet showed signs of massive construction projects that had reshaped entire continents. Most disturbing of all, the space around Earth itself seemed to shimmer with energy barriers that made no sense according to known physics. Fleet Admiral Morrison met the galactic delegation aboard a space station that should not have been able to exist. The structure was larger than most cities and appeared to be built from materials that bent light around them in impossible ways. His hair had turned completely gray during the months of preparation, but his eyes burned with the intensity of someone who had been planning for this moment his entire life. "You want our help," he said simply as the delegation was escorted into a conference room that seemed to extend infinitely in all directions. "What are you offering in return?" Ambassador Kethver swallowed his pride and spoke the words that his species had never thought they would need to say. "Full reinstatement in galactic society. Complete access to all our technology and knowledge. Whatever you require to defend our worlds from the Devourers." Admiral Morrison smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "You misunderstand the situation, Ambassador. We don't want to be reinstated in your society. We want to be in charge of it." The negotiations that followed were brief and one-sided. Humanity demanded complete command authority over all galactic military forces. They wanted access to every star system, every research facility, and every strategic resource in known space. Most shocking of all, they wanted the Galactic Council dissolved and replaced with a new government structure that would place human representatives in positions of ultimate authority. "These terms are completely unacceptable," protested General Thokran when the demands were presented. "You are asking us to surrender our sovereignty to a species we exiled for being dangerous." Admiral Morrison's response was delivered with the calm certainty of someone who held all the advantages. "General, take a look at your tactical displays. The Devourer fleet will reach the outer colonies in 18 hours. Your combined military forces might delay them for 18 minutes. You can accept our terms and have a chance of survival, or you can maintain your pride and watch your civilizations burn." The vote was unanimous. Every species that had once condemned humanity now signed documents placing their fate entirely in human hands. The irony was not lost on anyone present. The council that had expelled humans for being unpredictable was now betting everything on that same unpredictability. As the agreements were signed, Admiral Morrison's demeanor changed completely. The cold negotiator was replaced by a professional, military commander who had been preparing for this war his entire career. Now that we have that settled, let's discuss how we're going to save your civilizations. The human fleet emerged from the Sol system like an avenging angel. Their ships were sleek predators that moved through space with impossible grace and speed. The vessels bore no resemblance to anything in galactic databases, incorporating technologies that seemed to violate basic laws of physics. Most disturbing of all, many of the ships appeared to be partially alive, their hulls pulsing with organic rhythms that suggested a fusion of biology and engineering. Captain Lisa Park commanded the flagship Retribution as the human fleet intercepted the Devourer invasion force. Her ship alone was larger than most galactic battle groups, its weapon systems drawing power from sources that her alien allies could not begin to understand. The bridge crew worked with the smooth efficiency of people who had drilled for this moment countless times. "All ships report ready for combat operations," reported her tactical officer, Commander Brian Ellis. "The Devourers are maintaining formation and appear to be unaware of our approach." Lisa smiled as she studied the enemy fleet disposition. "They're about to get a very unpleasant surprise. Signal all units to begin Phase 1 operations." The battle that followed defied every principle of galactic warfare. The humans did not engage the Devourer fleet ship to ship in the traditional manner. Instead, they deployed weapons that attacked the enemy's technology directly. Virus programs spread through Devourer communication networks like wildfire, turning their own systems against them. Navigation computers began feeding false information to their ships, causing massive collisions within their formations. Dr. Elizabeth Kim watched the battle from her laboratory aboard the science vessel Discovery, monitoring the biological weapons that her team had developed during months of secret research. The Devourers had evolved beyond purely organic life, but they still retained biological components that could be targeted by carefully designed pathogens. "The neural disruptors are working perfectly," she reported to Admiral Morrison. "Devourer crew efficiency is dropping by 30% every hour as the airborne agents spread through their ships." The war ended not with a climactic battle, but with the complete collapse of Devourer command and control systems. Within 6 hours of first contact, the massive invasion fleet was drifting helplessly in space as their ships suffered cascading system failures. The threat that had haunted galactic nightmares for centuries was neutralized by an enemy they had never learned to fight. As the last Devourer ship went dark, Admiral Morrison opened a communication channel to the entire galaxy. His voice carried to every world, every ship, and every listening post in known space as he delivered humanity's final message. "The Devourer threat has been eliminated," he announced. "Your worlds are safe, your families are protected, and your civilizations will continue. But things are going to be different now. You forced us to leave because you thought we were dangerous to you. You were wrong. We were dangerous to your enemies. Now, we're going to make sure you never make that mistake again." The new galactic government that emerged from the ashes of the old council bore little resemblance to the diplomatic assembly that had once expelled humanity. Humans held key positions in every major decision-making body, their representatives, backed by military forces that no one dared to challenge. The species that had once feared human unpredictability now lived under human protection, whether they wanted it or not. Ambassador Kethver, now serving as a regional administrator under human oversight, often reflected on the choice his people had made. They had traded their independence for their survival, and history would judge whether that bargain had been worth making. But as he looked up at the stars that were once again safe for galactic civilization, he had to admit that humanity had kept their promise. The humans had never forgotten the lesson of their exile. Trust was earned, but respect was taken. And now, finally, they had both.